What? But dark energy. Science. The character writing in this is just the worst I've ever seen. There's no consistency at all with almost every character. Even Hunt is written badly, and he's the lead. That's the one character you should know what you're doing with. Any attempt at character evolution comes off as a rewrite, usually followed by a writer that didn't get the memo. But I will try and make some sense of this for you. I've already talked a bit about Captain Hunt, but I haven't really gone into detail about just how lousy he is at everything he tries. So he's attempting to rebuild the Commonwealth, right? A civilization that spanned 3 galaxies and had, I think they said, millions of member worlds. How do you do that with just one ship, manned by a crew of 6.5 out of 4,000? Well, you could start by not causing civil wars on the planets you hope to recruit. Yeah, there's an episode where he meets a planet that seems to be just getting back on its feet after the fall, in the midst of accepting another race on the planet. The peace stems from a cover-up organised by the President. He blew up a Nietzschean slaver ship that also happened to have civilians from the other race on board. Now, of course, that's a tragic thing, the loss of innocent life in a war situation. But it was a war. If that slave ship had got through, we're told, the whole planet would have been conquered by slavers. So Hunt, wanting to found his Commonwealth on the principles of truth and justice, tells the truth. Which sounds nice, but telling the truth causes a civil war on the planet below. They also, for some reason, sign his blood-soaked treaty, and so it's a victory, setting back social progress and inciting violence. I guess the truth hurts. I mean, god damn it, if ever there was a lie worth telling, it was that one. Or tell the truth in 100 years when no one will care. And this is just one of 6 planets that they saved from the barbarism of the fractured universe. One of the other planets is run by a race called the Perseids. They seem to all be scientists, often referred to collectively as chinheads. Given that there isn't a race represented in Andromeda that has a chin anywhere else, it's a little like calling Africans bone nose. Everyone has a bone in their nose, dummy. Hunt recruits these people by impressing them with the Andromeda's super advanced 300-year-old technology. Like, with the Perseids around keeping science and knowledge alive, why wouldn't things have advanced in this time? If anything, constantly fending off attacks would keep at least weapons advanced. But what do the Perseids get out of the Commonwealth? Protection. They get the protection of the Andromeda and her crew. Oh boy, that just doesn't make any sense at all. Firstly, the Perseids are painting a target on themselves by allying with Hunt. There are people in the universe who like it the way it is. And secondly, what happens when the Andromeda is 3 galaxies away, ruining someone else's life, and the Perseids get attacked? How much good is Andromeda's protection going to be when they're weeks away? It's not like taking over a planet is hard in this universe, you just threaten to blow up their sun. I'm not kidding, sun-destroying bombs, nova bombs, are a thing in this universe. That's literally a step up from devouring planets. To make this stupider, in a much later episode the Andromeda is being led towards an orbital defense thingy that we're told could tear her apart. So if stuff like that exists, why don't the Perseids have one? Why would they need Andromeda? Why would Andromeda be of any use? I'm sorry, where was I? Oh yes, Hunt's dead wife. Like, he had a wife, and then 300 years passed, and now he doesn't have a wife. In fact, Hunt spends a couple of minutes mourning his lost world before deciding that he wants to take over this new one. Well, that's maybe unfair. In episode 8, they've hooked up Andromeda to the black hole. The same one they were at in the pilot. The same one that they blew up, whatever. Anyway, they've hooked her up by throwing a plug into the singularity. Somehow, this opens up communications with the past, with Hunt's wife, who's looking for him. Harper, in one of his genius moods, invents both teleportation and time travel, in the space of an afternoon, using mostly watermelons. So Hunt gets to travel back in time and they say goodbye to his wife. In this episode they show that Hunt travelling back in time is what enabled him to be freed in the future, which is a paradox. 2 episodes previously, Trance accidentally travels him back in time to a pivotal battle, and in that episode they have the option of changing history, but decide not to. Hunt makes the decision to go back to the future and leave the long night as it was. Did I mention all this slavery and rape? Because he could, again, help prevent that, but decides not to. In episode 8 he wants to stay because of his wife, but can't because of technical difficulties. He learns nothing in either episode.
I'm not giving up on us, Dylan.
Dylan? That's a child's name. You can't call your war hero Dylan and expect us to take him seriously. Losing his old world of peace and learning to deal with this new one should have been a character arc for the season. Neither of these episodes are finale material, but they happen far too soon into the show's run to really mean much of anything, other than painting Dylan as either selfish or negligent, depending on which episode you prefer. Okay, so aside from unsuccessfully restoring peace and order, what are Hunt's other hobbies? Being disappointed in his hired help.
What the hell are you people doing to my ship?
Yeah, early on he just seems to be annoyed that his crew, of essentially mercenaries, don't care about and aren't trained for diplomatic relations. After a while they're all the same crew and are loyal to Hunt, but it doesn't really feel like there was anything to trigger this change. Maybe it's just a form of Stockholm Syndrome. Yes! Yes, goddamn I do! Giving regular emotions to a warship is a crap idea. Harmful if it means they're also capable of betrayal, useless if it means they regret the war you're leading them into. Do you want your coffee cup to feel heat? So let's get Andromeda out of the way. She's an AI that controls the whole warship. The missiles and the drone ships and the weapons and the ship's environment and the gravity and the lights. If it's part of the ship, she can switch it on or off at will. She's basically a demigod. She also sees you when you're showering.
You know, I'm so used to talking to you on the holoscreen. Waking up in the morning, having breakfast, you seeing me.
Getting out of the shower.
This would be fine if she were just a computer, but as above, the Commonwealth seems to like giving their ships entire personalities. In one episode, Andromeda explains that she's a hyper-beautiful human woman because that's what the majority of her crew would respond to. For some reason. Even though in the pilot it makes a conscious effort to show diversity among the crew. Like with this blue Pimba dude.
Section 3. Evacuate immediately.
In the pilot episodes, they have Andromeda represented on screen, and as a hologram. They'll both seem to have the same lightly affected personality. For now. In episode 3's B-plot, they have Harper build a body for the AI to live in. They repeatedly refer to this as the ship made flesh. And they make reference to the human bodily functions that Harper installed for his pleasure. But in the finale, she's just a robot with skin. For some reason, they have the computer version of her behave slightly different from the android version, occasionally having them argue humorously. And then, for some bizarre reason, they have the hologram version of Andromeda act slightly different again, meaning there's 3 underdeveloped versions of the same character. In a later episode, they meet another warship, and his avatar is also human, but a man. And they fall in love, of course. The computers fall in love. Fine, the episode is trying to talk about prejudice against synthetic lifeforms, while also trying to wrap its brain around eco-terrorism. But it's just ridiculous when you have these 2 ship avatars wanting to run away with each other. Ridiculous because Andromeda still has a computer and hologram versions of herself running things, and ridiculous because the whole ship made flesh thing is made completely redundant by the fact that in an earlier episode it was shown that she couldn't operate independently of the ship for long stretches of time. Her batteries wore out. In another episode we see a Commonwealth warship cut off from whatever is left of civilization. Becca actually mentions a list of such ships, so I guess we might see more of these intact warships that all failed to protect the Commonwealth and weren't salvaged for 300 years. This other ship has gone insane. The Commonwealth made AI personalities so human they could fail so badly as to fall in love and have a psychotic break from the death of her lover, who was also her captain. This all seems very counterproductive. Did I mention that she accidentally destroys a habitable world? It's almost hilarious actually, but it's established early on that the ship-captain relations are illegal, and so they sort of toy with Hunt and Romy having a thing, but that never really happens. Maybe the writers realised that it'd be too stupid and obvious even for them, but it never really goes away either. I'm honestly not sure if I want it to happen or not. I mean, at least it would be something. Well, yes, but the point is you can use your common enemy to form at least a temporary alliance, or you can turn both enemies on each other. The original phrase is meant to provoke thought, not bullheaded hate. Becca Valentine, captain of the Eureka Maru salvage vessel, becomes Dylan's second in command. She is, the best damn pilot in the known universe.
It's the last time they saw each other.
Autopilot engaged.
And I guess a drug addict? That happens in an episode. She gets addicted to something called Flash and then gets clean in the space of a day. No, really, a day in universe. Early on there are a couple of episodes that focus on her family history. We meet her brother, he's a con man, and her uncle. He is a rich businessman who got his fortune through illegitimate means. I guess that kind of makes him a con man too. And like with Hunt's time travel adventures, they don't really do anything. They mostly show that Becca was once not a very good guy, and that her father was kind of a waste of space. The one with her uncle sets up her aversion to Flash, but makes the addiction episode look stupid because she starts taking it for such a nothing reason. And also shows us that she can change her hair colour at will. But this is never used or shown or mentioned ever again. But to my surprise is a plot point, at least in that episode. Toward the end of the series, they have Becca as Hunt's right-hand man and best friend. Like I said earlier, there doesn't seem to be much reason for this to happen other than just time. They mention that over a year has passed, and yet this is the first birthday Hunt has spent with his new crew. However, the scenes where they're buddies are pretty charming. The actors have good chemistry. But she doesn't really have any of her own stuff going on, nothing to challenge her throughout the series. In fact, this is a problem with all of the characters. There's like maybe one episode each that gives them something to do, but it doesn't ever feel like any of their development is carried forward. And there are times where they just directly contradict themselves. I have some questions about why she chose the people she did for her salvage crew, but I'll ask those later. This is the only one of these things that's actually useful. Oh, do I get to talk about Anasazi now? I've been looking forward to this. But unfortunately I now also have to talk about the Nietzscheans. So, the Nietzscheans seem to be a branch of humanity that decided to follow Darwinism. Like, they're all about bettering the species through selective breeding and proving to each other how good their genes are by how deceitful they can be. Anytime we get a look at their society, it's ghastly and inhumane and, ironically, kind of sterile. But it's not a bad idea for a sci-fi show. As with many other things, Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda seems confused by what genetic engineering is. In some episodes it acts like their heightened senses come from augmentation, and in others it's because of their genes. In the pilot episode, Hunt's second in command is a Nietzschean, whose betrayal in retrospect does really nothing. He didn't even lead Hunt to the Armada or... oh Christ, whatever. In a flashback we see that they regularly play this game, which I'm assuming is like 3D chess or something.
What happened to my 5D4?
You had no piece there.
Yes, I did. Unless you cheated.
How did you get control of a fucking warship? How? You didn't notice someone was stealing pieces off the board for 3 goddamn years, you imbecile. One of the reasons the Nietzscheans aren't completely in charge of everything is that somewhere along the line they were divided into different tribes. Prides, they're called here. And they fight with each other as much as everyone else. Anyway, Tyr himself is the personification of the selfish gene. In fact, I'm surprised that didn't make it into the Anasazi book club. He's interested only in his own survival and the propagation of his genes. It's weird and kind of hilarious how seriously he takes that. Again, Tyr doesn't really get much of an arc, even though him being humanized and learning to work as part of a group would have been something. Although the way they have him set up, he is kind of impenetrable to change. I'm on the fence about whether that's good or not. There's a B-plot in an episode where Becca and Tyr flirt with having a romance, but he won't lower himself to have sex with a mere human. He does have a passionless shag with this woman though. She gets pregnant. I'm guessing this will factor into something eventually. This should make him the worst character, but he has a habit of being right, at least tactically speaking, and is often given the best lines.
I can usually spot a planet. They're large, I have good eyes.
All of this is improved greatly by the actor who does a fantastic job and has great comic timing.
Well, you've had the benefit of a more diverse exposure. Maybe you could share your experiences with her. That non-Nietzscheans aren't inferior.
You'd like me to lie to her?
Tyr is by far the best thing about the show. At least until he dies. Netflix fucked up here again. They show this title card from, I'm assuming, Series 5. A nice little chart of who does and doesn't make it there. Thanks, Netflix. I'm just gonna drop this here.
this tier's cavalry act.
They were playing Wagner. It's the most fun I've had in about 6 months.